seamlessly move into the sports world, bring my esports background with me to TSN. Oh, I'm echoing a little bit. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So I host a show called Digital Sports Center. It's on Instagram. So it's Canada's first digital first optimized daily news show. It's a sports news show with a focus on funny moments, topical discussions, big reactions to major events in the sporting world. The show is made for Instagram stories. So we use the tools available on Instagram to engage with an audience there and keep them on the actual slide, because it's so easy to swipe away. It's so easy to tap away, but we want to keep people there. So we make sure to engage and make it as quick as possible with swipe ups as well, which also makes it easy for partners to jump on. In the first 6 months of the show, we were able to secure a 6-figure partnership, which was obviously incredible for us, just starting something new. We also started just kind of playing with things. Like I do a little thing called promo time, where I'm just promoting what might be happening on TSN that night. But we're doing it in a way where it's like, yeah, you know what? We're pumping our own tires here. We're tuning our own horns, but we're letting you know about it. This is a promo, just so you're aware. We're not going to hide it in anything else. We try to be as honest as possible with the audience because, well, they could leave at any point and we just want to be cool with them. We want to be friends. We want to stay connected. But outside of that, I try to focus a lot of my attention and make my social platforms another job. So you have to think of your platforms as your side hustle. And then when you're using your platforms, I just want you to think about what your brand is, because we have to start as a niche. That's how we pull in an audience, especially on TikTok. I don't want you to sleep on TikTok. Like, I know a lot of people make fun of TikTok. They feel like it's for kids. It is, it can be, but there are a lot more millennials on there now as well, a lot of older people jumping on board. It's a great way to connect with a new audience and bring that audience to your other platforms. I found that with just trying to create original content on TikTok, I have 2 separate TikToks, one for video games, because you want to keep it as niche-y as possible to pull in that audience. But the audience that I've accrued on TikTok, I found that have jumped over, they found my Instagram because you can easily link all of those things. And that has made me a little more successful on Instagram as well, because I've gotten a little more of a following there too. So I want you to think about always liking and following and engaging with other accounts that are similar to yours, because you want to engage with those audiences. So maybe those audiences will find you as well. Reach out to brands that kind of fit within your niche as well, because if they align with your values, you might be able to partner with them and bring them on board to your personal platforms or whatever brand you're promoting. Be in the comments. This is a huge one. Be in the comments immediately after posting, like 20 minutes after posting. Just stay there and comment. When anybody's commenting, you comment back, because that contributes to the algorithm of your post and it bumps it a little bit as well. And just always be consuming. I feel like, I fight with my husband a lot because I feel like I'm on my phone a lot. He's like, okay, can you just put the phone on for a second? And I do. I have to take a step back, and I think it's important that we all take a step back and just enjoy the world around us for a second. But we have to make sure that we're using, like, you have to think of your socials as a job. I know it's it's annoying. We're already so busy. We're already doing so much, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And I feel like I had a little bit of that burn with my job when I lost it on television, just feeling like, okay, what do I have now? Because I gave everything to this one company and didn't focus on my own platform. So just make sure you're giving love to yourself and your own platform, so you have some kind of cushion to land on if anything happens to go away that you can control. And that's it for me. But DM me if you have any questions. My DMs are open. Oh yeah, keep your DMs open. You might get some weird stuff in there sometimes. It's gonna happen. But you might get some good stuff too. Like a gig. I got the TSN gig because my DMs were open on Twitter.
How did you feel like from, having a job that went away to now where you are, where you're able to sort of dictate how your career goes? What was that mentality shift that got you to that place?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people right now that are struggling, right, with like what's next.
Yeah, I had always had a couple of jobs on the go. I guess I was always kind of like that. I felt like I needed to always, if I didn't have something, I had something else. So when I was working on Canadian television, I was still serving. I still had a cocktail waitressing job at night. Like I needed to always have something there to land on just in case. I don't know what the fear was for me. I just feel like I always needed to be working. So when I left Vancouver, I was hosting a show in Vancouver. I left to come back to Toronto, and I just went back to serving at the Air Canada Centre and just kept reaching out. I because of the social following that I had already from that show, I was still connected to the video game community, and I was able to reach out. And because of that, and also like I feel like it's because of the women that I've connected with specifically, not just to, not just to placate to this panel, but really, I feel like because of the women that I've met, the connections I've met with women, that has brought me other opportunities. So I got an opportunity with Xbox Canada to host a community show for them when I had moved back and I didn't have anything else going on except for the cocktail waitressing job. I got that from a recommendation from Sam Meggs, who was in the video game community, because they had reached out to her first and she couldn't do it. So she passed it along to me. It was literally those connections. And I find the more I connect with women, the more I uplift women in my community, the more good comes back to me. It's crazy the way it works, but it's kind of incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like that kind of goes perfectly with the theme of this group here as well. So thank you so much for giving up your time, and we really appreciate it, and good luck on your show.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna try to stay as long as possible, and then come back after we're done shooting if you guys are still here. So I'll kind of be hovering. But thank you for having me.
Awesome. And I know Allison and I like to be as collaborative as possible. So if you have any questions, if you want to type it in the chat, you want to unmute yourself. It's a small group today, and we can't be interrupted through the YouTube live. So feel free to, ask anything in terms of like, the women and their expertise. And we want to make it, as helpful for everyone on the call today. So thank you again. And the next segment too, I'm really looking forward to, Brenly, she, does a lot in terms of like the NHL and in Allison and I's direct space, but also with like mindsets and, thinking about a performance coach, resiliency, getting through challenging times. I feel like it's a perfect time to have you, kick off a broader theme of how do we, best prepare for, COVID, our work, all the challenges that will come our way. And as the economy starts opening up, what does that look like? So I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. So first of all, I'm very excited to be here. As Megan said, this is a little bit different for me too, because I am usually in a very male population. So it's so nice to connect with all of you, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air for me. So just a little bit about myself. I actually started out in like a traditional counseling practice. I always had a passion for sport, and it was truly through my own children's experience that I started to see that there was such a incredible need in sport for support, and that there's just so much craziness going on. And so I decided to take a bold leap of faith, and I left my traditional practice. I had studied a lot of sports psychology, and I decided to blend those two worlds together. So what I did, and my passion, and I just opened up high performance like coaching practice for athletes. And I put an office in a brand new hockey rink in Toronto. And I kind of sat there for some time thinking, oh my God, what did I just do? And, I think though, when you do follow your passions and you allow yourself to be resilient and stay with it, you will figure it out. And it's grown from there. And I work in the OHL with a hockey team. I work with the Arizona Coyotes now in the NHL. So I'm a mental performance coach. I work with Olympic athletes, NCAA athletes. And through COVID too, I am pivoting a little bit too and trying to expand and build my own brand. So there's a lot of room for opportunity and creativity in the struggle. And that's really what I want to be able to share with you guys today. So I am going to try and share my screen with you now. And we will just go through this. So give me 1 second here. All right, so what I wanted to share with you guys was really how to turn adversity into an advantage. There are very challenging times in the world right now. I think it's a time of uncertainty, of loss, of fear. And so the first thing that I just want to say to everybody is what you experience with this is normal. And I just kind of want to validate that. Whether you're working or not working or roles have changed, like life has changed, and there's no question about that. We're facing global crises right now, and It's things we've never seen before. And the reality is that the brain does not like that. Our brain is sort of wired to protect ourselves. So everybody's really being not just pushed out of their comfort zone, but literally thrown out of their comfort zone. And so I think there is a lot of emotion that goes along with that. Our brains are going to fight against that. But on the flip side of it, our brains are wired for survival. So I just want everybody to sort of acknowledge that feeling and honor that feeling in themselves, and then be able to move through that feeling. I actually wrote a book a couple years ago called Fearless, and the whole concept is it's not in the absence of fear. It's about being able to be afraid and being able to move forward anyways. So I just want to acknowledge that with everybody. And at the same time, like I said, our brains are wired for survival. So I want to say, whatever it is you might be facing in your life, in your career now, we're a lot stronger and we've got a lot more in us than we think we can, that we think we have. So a crisis squeezes us, it challenges us, but it also stimulates the creative side of our brain because we're pushed to think in ways that we never would have thought before. And so I like to say too, moving through the fear and uncertainty, we have a choice right now. We can choose to focus on the fear, which is normal, or we can choose to focus on faith and the ability and belief in ourselves that we can figure it out and that we will be able to push through it. So I say a crisis squeezes us, but it also stretches us, right? It's going to stimulate our creativity, and it's definitely going to move us in one way or the other. And I think where we move with it is going to be our choice, and the direction is up to you. So it comes down to a couple things for me. And if I can summarize how to be successful through all of this time, is 2 words for me, and that's perspective and intention. So perspective is mindset, right? How do we choose to look at a situation? How do we choose to see it? Where are we putting our perspective? Or is our focus on faith and the belief that we can figure it out? Or is our perspective going to stay stuck in fear mode? And that's really going to change your entire response to it. And then we need to move into intention. So now, what are we going to do with it? So those are the 2 key pieces for me. We need to have the right perspective, and we need to be very intentional with our actions, because if we just sit and spend time consuming endless amounts of news and negativity and just get stuck in fear, then we're not actually going to move through it. So we need to have the right perspective on it. We need to have the right information, and then we need to be very intentional in our actions. And I'm just going to summarize for you guys in my next slide here. This literally is my key to life. It's how I do all my work. It's how I understand every athlete that I work with, and really just people in general. So this is my key. I'm going to explain it to you. Our thoughts drive our emotion. So first we have our thinking, then we have our feelings, and then based on how we feel, it translates into our actions and our behaviors. And then there's consequences to that, good or bad. So if our thought process stays in the negative, oh no, everything's changed, this is so difficult, I can't do this, then how are we feeling? We're going to be feeling anxious, fearful, hopeless. Then how is that going to translate into our actions and behaviors? We're probably going to stay stuck. We're not going to move. We're not going to grow. Well, what are the consequences in business to doing that? Probably not very good. Okay, so that's sort of the sequence of events. But where do you think people clue into? Our first level of consciousness typically is where my arrows are. They're pointing in at the feelings. That's usually where we connect to. Right? Our thoughts tend to be very subconscious. The brain can only hold so much information at one time. So we actually have thoughts firing all the time. Believe it or not, on average, any given person on any given 24-hour period has between 50,000 and 80,000 thoughts a day. So that's a lot of thinking, right? So our brain's constantly filtering, and because our brain's wired for survival, we tend to naturally be focused on the negative. So it's actually a 12-to-1 ratio. A negative thought is stored instantly to our brain, to memory, whereas a positive one takes 12 seconds of thought and focus to store it to our memory. Now, it could be bad news, or we could change our perspective on it. The fact that we know that is we just have to be more intentional. We have to work a little harder at having the right mindset. So the right mindset is going to create better feelings, is going to create better actions and behaviors. So if I shift the perspective from this is such a scary time, which it is, to, you know, this is a scary time, but there's an opportunity for me here. We can make change, right? A crisis is going to move us. How can we grow through this? Not just go through it, but grow through it. And if that's my thought process and perspective, I'm going to be feeling a lot more hopeful. I'm going to be a lot more empowered. And when I feel empowered, how's that going to translate into my actions and behaviors? I'm going to make movement. I'm going to network with people, just like getting on this call today. I'm going to start to brainstorm new ideas. What is the outcome and the consequence? We're going to start to grow. We're going to start to develop. We're going to start to be able to find the opportunity on the other side of it. So just to move on, I like this quote from Albert Einstein, and I felt it was very fitting to this time, which is, in the middle of the difficulty lies opportunity. And that's where I feel we are now. We're in it. We're learning, right? The beginning of a crisis is very hard because everything's changing and we're really just trying to adapt and survive. But when we get to the middle of a crisis, that's where our opportunity comes. We start to understand things, we've learned, we've adjusted, and this is really our chance now to be able to find new ways of doing things, to be able to find better ways of doing things, just to be better. So that to me is, you know, quite important. I don't know if you guys know this, but out of the last 2008 recession, some of the most incredible companies were developed and founded through that time. So again, creates our it builds our creative brain. To name a few, just out of 2008, WhatsApp was founded, Uber was founded, Venmo and Square was founded, and so was Airbnb, because the world faced a recession. And so people came up with very creative ideas on how can we be more cost effective? How can we engage with people, you know, in terms of what they're going through right now? So again, you know, super amazing opportunities can come out of that. And I just want to finish with this, just to sort of, I thought this was a neat way to wrap up everything that I'm saying. Coming back to perspective and intention, I think we need to choose our thought process. And I'm going to read this to you because I'm all about mindset and resilience. And I want you to hear how this first mindset sounds. So today was the absolute worst day ever. And don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day. Because when you take a closer look, this world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and the heart, because true happiness can be obtained only if one's surroundings are good. It's not true that good exists. I'm sure you can agree that the reality creates my attitude. It's all beyond my control, and you'll never in a million years hear me say that today was a good day. So how does that sound, right? Thinking, feelings, behavior. It's a pretty negative mindset. This person's going to be feeling pretty hopeless, and it's going to be translated into how they act, their intention, and how they move forward. But if you stay with me for a moment, there's always a method to my madness. I'm just going to flip this upside down. So I'm literally going to turn the perspective upside down right now. And I'm going to read it back to you from the bottom up. I'm not changing any of the words, right? I'm not changing the situation, but I'm going to change the perspective. Listen to what it sounds like now. Today was a good day, and you'll never in a million years hear me say that it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates the reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be obtained because it's all in the mind and the heart. It's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last. Some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if this world is a pretty evil place. Because when you take a closer look, there is something good in every day. And don't try to convince me that today was the absolute worst day ever. So it's an amazing, different perspective. This person is going to be feeling a lot more hopeful. They're going to be motivated to take positive action, make change, and create growth. And so that's it for me. I just want to end with that. I think, we all do need to honor ourselves and the space that we're in right now and in the world. And we need to take care of ourselves. And we need to start brainstorming, and we need to network, and we need to become powerful together. And we really, like I said, instead of just going through this experience, I hope everybody can grow through this experience together. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much. I love that last quote, not go through it, but grow through it. I feel like it's so easy to, be negative or be fearful. So it's really nice to think that our mindset really can control, the outcome or the, just the intent of what you do day to day. So I really appreciated that, especially that last one. That's really trippy to read it up. Whoever did that was a really smart person. Yeah, awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you again.
Pleasure.
So next we'll have Ellen from The Gist, and they are an all-women's group that are in media. Let me just see if I see her on here. Oh, there we go. Hi, Ellen.
Right.
And that's the one thing that's interesting right now is even though, a lot of physical buildings aren't open, media and digital outreach is always on the go and even more important now. So I'll let her take over with the presentation on that.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Megan. And thanks so much for everyone who's here and for organizing everything. I'm super excited to be here with you. I'm out in New Brunswick right now in a little bit of a rural cottage. Got out here at the beginning of coronavirus. So if my internet's a little bit sketchy, that might be why. So as Megan mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of The Gist. And we create sports content, experiences, and community that are all by women and for all types of sports fans. Specifically at The Gist, I'm the head of content as well as HR, but obviously mostly focusing on content. And so today I was thinking I'd give you kind of the background of The Gist, so the gist of The Gist, for lack of a better term, but then also get into, some key insights of what we've learned and what we've done during coronavirus, but also during all of the protests following the murders of people like George Floyd. And so I think that this is a really important time for media to step up. And I also think that it's a really important time for being in the sports industry to step up, because I think, as a lot of us know on this call, sports really can unite people and they have the power to make change. And so I think when we think about all of our positions in this industry during these trying times and these really heavy times, it's important for us to use our voices as well. So I'll get into sharing my screen here. Okay, so I think I should be sharing my screen now. I think that works, which is great. So this is just a title slide. So again, what is The Gist? I kind of just went over it. So through sports content and community, we create, sports content, experiences, and community that's all by women. So our entire team is women and for all types of sports fans. And really why we created The Gist is that it came out of a problem ourselves that we noticed, is that, the industry was really focused on the avid male sports fan. And we felt that as women and as some casual fans and as men who maybe weren't the most avid fans, there really wasn't a space for us in the sports world, and that there was the constant challenge of, are you actually a fan? What is my community here? Where do I fit in? Where am I involved? And so we came up with The Gist on a Thursday night, having some drinks and dinner with my two co-founders, and really just talked about, I'm a super avid sports fan, and my two co-founders were kind of sports fans. They would follow once in a while, but when I was speaking to them about what I was so excited about and super passionate about with the Leafs finally making it to the playoffs back in 2017, it resonated with them so much more than traditional media did. And so that night, kind of a light bulb moment went off as to how can we scale the experience that they had on that Thursday night to so many other people across the world, and really right now across North America, that are looking for more of a sports community for them and content that's actually catered to them. So, I don't think I need to tell you guys this, but really sports are such a powerful connector in our society, and they do hold a social currency. I think that we can all think of conversations that we've had, whether it be with colleagues or family or friends, where people are talking about sports. But unfortunately, so many people feel like they don't have access to or excluded from this community. And a lot of this stems from a lack of diversity in the sports industry, and specifically looking at a lack of gender diversity. Less than 2% of C-suite executives in the 4 major sports leagues are women. Less than 4% of sports media coverage is on female athletes, and less than 1% of endorsement money is also on female athletes. And 14% of sports journalists are female. And so those numbers are pretty staggering, and really the trickle down effect is so many people feeling like sports aren't necessarily for them. And so we wanted to change that. So the opportunity for us is that sports are a $75 billion industry across North America. There are 96 million women that we feel are within our target market, and our target market is even below 20 and above 59 too, which isn't great to see. And that women, as a lot of us on this call know, we really do control the purchasing power in our households. And so over $5 trillion in North America is controlled by this market. And so it's really wild to us to think that this market hasn't really been tapped into before by sports, and that they've kind of been listening, but not fully actually creating for us. And so we really wanted to connect and empower underserved fans. And we love to kind of pull back at this quote that Nielsen said, is that the most distinctive shift in the sports landscape in the last 50 years has been the rapid rise in the importance, influence, and value of female fans. And so that's something that we keep in mind all the time. And that's also something that we say to our partners as well, as to why they want to be working with the GIST. So really our mission is to level the playing field, because we feel like sports are for everyone and should be for everyone. And we want to become one day the go-to source for sports for underserved fans, or fans that are just looking for a different perspective or a different voice in the sports industry. And so our product offering, the big thing that we work on, is our free twice weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday and Thursday morning, that gives you the gist of everything that's happening in the sports world. So we sent out a newsletter this morning that covered everything that athletes, teams, or leagues are doing or aren't doing with respect to all of the protests and speaking out. And so if you're interested in checking us out, it's thegistsports.com. If you want to subscribe, it's a really great way to stay up to date on everything that's happening in sports. Daily social media. So we have thegistnews.ca for our Canadian side and the Gist USA for our American side. Guides and explainers. So one thing that we recognize for some sports fans is that there is a little bit of a learning curve, as with any kind of industry that's new that you're jumping into. So things like the Gist Guide to Tennis, the Gist Guide to Basketball, those sorts of things, as well as glossaries, FAQs, pools, and brackets. So every single year we'd host a football pool that's weekly. We'd host a bracket for the FIFA Women's World Cup, and those sorts of things to really get people excited and involved. So that's kind of an outline of the GIST. And if you have any questions, more than happy to answer those offline as well with respect to the GIST specifically. So far, we reach over 100,000 GISTers across North America, and our engagement rates are over double and triple the industry average when we're looking specifically at email. But today, what I really wanted to chat with you guys about was to give, some keys to connect, and I guess tips on the media side of things, and really how to engage with your audience, because I think no matter what your company is, it's how you engage with people that's going to make a big difference for you. So wanted to go through those types of things, and specifically also have the lens to coronavirus and also what we're seeing right now. So the biggest thing is to know your audience in and out. You need to know who you're speaking to. You need to know what they do when they first wake up, and you need to know the last thing that they do before they go to bed. You need to know where they shop. You need to know where they live on their phone. You need to know where they're spending their most amount of time. You need to know who their friends are. You need to know what their favorite sports team is, what they play, what they don't play. Everything that you can about your audience is so important, because the more that you know about your audience, the more that you can create content specifically for them, and the more that you can feel like that trusted best friend to them. So that's the biggest thing, is to know your audience. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Obviously, you know, through social media and through newsletters and through technology, you can learn a lot of this from the quantitative side of things and using technology and analytics. But then there's also the qualitative side of things as well, putting out surveys, asking your gisters for feedback, all of those types of things really help you to get to know who your audience is. And the second thing, if you are a content creator, or if you're looking to get into content, there's going to be pushback of when you're working with brands, or there's going to be pushback from other areas in your business of, oh, well, why don't we do that content-wise? Why don't we do this? Once you know who your audience is, you need to stick up for them and stand up for them and say, no, we're doing this because I know that our gisters do X, Y, and Z, and this is how they'll respond. So it's knowing your audience, and then once you have that full understanding, it's how to advocate for them. So moving on after that is really having a distinct brand voice. And I think it's so easy to get lost in the sauce these days because everyone is on social, everyone's doing digital, but you need to have your distinct brand voice and what makes you different, so that no matter what you're posting, the minute someone reads one sentence, or even actually like 4 words, they're going to know that it's from you. And so a brand voice doesn't have to come, you know, right away. It's something that can be iterated on day after day, year after year to improve. I look back at the first newsletter that we sent out in 2017, when the gist was just a side hustle and we were still working our full-time jobs in finance. And I look back and I'm like, oh my God, what were we saying? We actually put this out. But it's putting things out, getting feedback, listening to your audience, and then, you know, iterating constantly on what your voice should be. And so right now I feel like we're at a really great place with our brand voice. We understand it. We've been able to hire a lot of newsletter contributors on, a lot of social media on, and we've kind of created a brand voice outline for everyone. And so if you're looking to scale your voice, that's something that's really important to do, is to kind of set up what is a part of your voice. What do you think of? And also with having a distinct brand voice, you know, you do become more reliable and trusted when you're speaking to your audience. And so I kind of already went through this, but listen and learn from your audience. As much as you're speaking to your audience, they have the opportunity to speak back to you. And so we always say, please DM us, please reply to our email. Email us if you're interested in our podcast. What do you want to hear? The more that you listen and the more that you learn from your audience, it's great. We've hired so many of our gisters because they've said, hey, we think that you could be better at XYZ, and I think that you can help. And we're like, yeah, that's great. Let's do it. Jump on board. We've implemented different things in our newsletter because of our gisters' ideas. We have started we started doing different things from a partnership perspective because our gisters had cool ideas. And so the more that we're able to listen and learn from them, it's the best thing. And so in these kind of trying the beginning of virus, we obviously sports stopped, and that was really the impetus to kind of the world stopping here. And we said to our audience, like, we don't know what we're doing. We've never been in this situation before. What do you want to hear from us? Sent out a survey, and we had over 500 responses of ideas of what they wanted to see the most, anything else that they wanted to see. And that was so helpful. And then also they become engaged in the content too, because they feel like they've contributed. And that's kind of the cycle that you want to be creating. And so 2 kind of more points here, earn their trust and be reliable. We always say we're their trusted, witty best friend to learn sports from, and to get the sports stories from. A part of this is being accurate. A part of this is being consistent. They know that we're going to be in their inbox every Monday and Thursday between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. They know that we're going to be posting on social media every day. They have an understanding of the type of things that we're going to be talking about. And they understand that we do, you know, sometimes have an opinion, and that they trust us as a person on top of just being a company. And so I think that that's really important in times like these too. And then finally, don't forget to delight and surprise. You want to be reliable. You want to be, doing everything that they expect, because there's so much going on right now. You want to be, their go-to place to have consistency, but you also want to surprise them and have some fun sometimes, or else it's going to get a little bit stagnant and a little bit boring. So any way that you can add different things to your podcast, could you send out a different newsletter that's fun and cool? Could you start doing different types of Instagram lives with athletes? Could you say something that makes them laugh out loud at their desk because they never thought a media company would be saying something like that? It's those types of things that you have to kind of put in there and sprinkle in there. And then I think, as one thing that we've done with the Gist as well, just, understanding the climate that we're in, is to have a statement and to have a voice, and to talk about these tough things as well. We've made sure that we've talked about everything that's happening with the protests, where we stand with George Floyd, where we donated, how our Gisters can help, and all of those types of things. Because in times like these, again, sports and media have such a powerful voice, and it's important that we use them, and that we use them in the right way that's for us and for our company. So that's really all that I have for today. Thanks so much again for listening, and hopefully you guys check out the Gist, and feel free to reach out. My email is ellen@thegistsports.com if you ever want to chat.
Or if there's any questions while we transfer to the next panel. Thanks again for joining us from New Brunswick. We hope you're staying safe out there, and we definitely appreciate, your voice and all the work you're doing. And I think, it's an important space in connecting women when, traditionally there hasn't been a lot of representation in sports. It's an interesting time where you can kind of think out of the box, right? There's not something that's an expectation as a woman fan, but you can try new and interesting things that, could translate in the post-COVID world in big ways as well. So really thank you for your perspective, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, Megan.
So maybe have Allison jump in as well. She's definitely been a great resource helping with questions for the next couple of panels. Try to put together lineups that are very reflective and industry leaders in both business in general and also in the digital space. So next panel I have Christine Yu, Tommy Belay, and Akanksha Tangri, all accomplished women entrepreneurs, different stages, but all have a very great background in digital and branding and scaling. So I'll welcome the three of you, and looking forward to a nice chat about what you've learned, what you think will hold, and what the future of women entrepreneurs in this space looks like.
We have everyone?
I think so. I see Christine.
All here.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, to build on, I thought that, with our last talk, it was so cool to hear, comments on really targeted connection with your audience. And when we talk about connecting in the digital space, maybe we could just start with everyone talking about how you approach really establishing, maintaining, and strengthening that connection with your consumers, with your audience in the digital space.
So for MFMG Cosmetics, we started out as a community first. So we really approached as a beauty brand, we approached our strategy a bit differently to begin with, where we had the audience before we actually had the products. So back in 2015, I was advocating for diversity in the beauty industry because, there were a number of product launches by really major brands with foundation shades that were not inclusive of deeper skin tones. And I decided to create a community around that mission. And the initial idea for the company was actually to more be a media company, sort of like Gist, where we'll just have subscribers and have advertisers within that environment. But the feedback that we were getting from the community was they actually wanted products. So community has always been an integral part of our brand, because we're also seeing a shift in I think it's across industries, but in beauty in particular, where it's kind of going from a top-down model to a bottom-up, where in the past it's been, here are the images of what you should look like as a woman, here are what we deem to be beautiful as a company, here's what our advertising and marketing agency has put out, where there's now this need from customers where they want to suggest what they want to be the ones to be part of the product development process. They want to see themselves in the product. So really our first step digital was to ensure that our customers were part of the product development process. So through our email list, we really asked them for what they wanted and what they were looking for, so that when our first product came out and sold out within 2 weeks, it was because the audience was part of the process. And we're seeing it with different brands, like even in the food industry, we're kind of seeing it with people wanting more like independent brands or like say made in Canada, that sort of thing. So our focus on digital has been to go community first versus us creating something and just like branding it to them as the this is the perfect thing for you.
Christine, how about you?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm the founder of a company called Callow. We do handmade jewelry and we support many artists around the world, including local artists in Canada. When I first started this company back in like a year and a half ago now almost, with the idea, it was both community and product start based around that idea of having that empowerment of having a voice and a platform to elevate other community members. We do really strongly believe in sustainable and ethical sourcing and craftsmanship. So that was the starting point and the tone to the brand. And actually, Callow was not Callow until March of this year. Before that, we were called something else called CY & Company. And then we actually rebranded in the middle of COVID. So we did hard pivot and we did a hard rebranding strategy. If you check our Instagram, we don't have a large following. We actually wiped out our whole Instagram and we started from fresh with, yeah, wow. I made a hard decision and we did it because I was like, I really want to engage with the right community members and the right audience, not the people just buying the product, but the people that are engaging with you. So over the year, our email list, subscription email list grew from 2 users literally to 2,000. And that is through our materials, our blogging, our guest collaborators, and things like that. And through our product, that's how we identify our brand as well. People that wear a product, love our brands, love our designers. So we did a lot of adjustments and pivoting in the way we communicate our style, our language, our tone. It's all about inclusivity, whether you're female, male, or whoever you are. We are an inclusive, definitely brand that we want to promote. So we've done a lot of readjustments, and I think it's actually starting to speak to our community now, and we've seen the climb, and the response has been great.
Awesome. Akanksha, how about you?
So Reset started last year. So I'm a very newly minted entrepreneur and it's a lot of hit and miss. But so the idea of Reset, essentially, Reset is an online platform that focuses on stories and resources around mental health, well-being, education, parenting, gender, health, and inclusivity. So that's, young people with intellectual and physical disabilities. And our primary focus was that there's a lot of stigma around these topics, especially outside of North America, and a lot of misconceptions. So our idea is to foster a safe space where people can come read stories, share their lived experiences, and we even put forward potential solutions. So from the time we've launched, our voice, I'd say our audience primarily was parents and educators, but we realized that we had a lot of young people engaging with us. So we, a few months in, we pivoted to also start having content that young people can engage with. So just recently, because of what's happening, we put out 4 ways to talk to your parents about racism. We noticed that everyone was doing how to talk to your kids about racism, but not a lot of people were doing, how to talk to your parents about racism. And it's just today we've put out an article about how protesters with disabilities can engage in the Black Lives Matter movement. So even in terms of our design, I look back and I'm like, did we really post this? Wow. Like, I can't believe sometimes that we actually put that out. Our workload has obviously increased. We're a pretty small team, but our strategy has always been digital first. Just as we were going into in-ground events, COVID happened. So it was just like all the time we spent working, planning our strategy for in-person events, we suddenly had to go back and be like, okay, now what can we do? How can we start? Because there's already so many Instagram lives happening, so many webinars. What are we offering our audience that other people aren't? Because why would somebody read us over, the New York Times? We have to remember that we're a niche publication and play on our strengths and find the reset angle to covering the story. So on Monday, actually, we're hosting an Instagram live with Timothy Shriver, who's the chairman of the Special Olympics, to talk about how COVID-19 is impacting people with disabilities. So, we're back to our digital first strategy. We're back to we have a safe space where people can submit questions that they're too scared to ask. And, we put it out to our team of experts. And, our readership has definitely gone up during COVID. So the pressure is on to even start putting out more content, because we know that this is an opportunity, we don't want to miss, but we also have to be accurate and be on top of our digital presence.
Each of you has articulated your strategies so perfectly. We've already heard some tips earlier about how to keep that digital engagement going, whether it's being in comments, and you just talked about timing Instagram lives. We've talked about knowing your audience. When you're working in the digital space, are there specific KPIs or measures that you are looking to make sure your strategy stays on focus and stays effective?
I'll start if you.
Great, Christine. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know how to use our analytics or our data properly from before. I'm not that expert in that area. However, recently we onboarded a digital marketer lead for our company, and lots of meaningful data that we've been using to target and to mask and to grow our audience and to get that meaningful feedback from the data is so important. The way the customer goes through the journey from prospect to consumer that actually engages and purchases from you is actually very interesting. How they click through your website, how they engage with you, the response rates, what posts are more are elevated, what posts don't work. They're all in your analytics, all through your social media platforms, whether you use Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, whatever it is. There's ways where you can grab that data and start utilizing it so that you are posting the most relevant, the most meaningful information out there to grab the audience's attention and for that response.
Tomi, Akanksha, anything else?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I'll let Akanksha go ahead.
Okay, so for us, I think one mistake I made was that early on, I hired a digital agency to handle our social media instead of hiring somebody who has a news and editorial background. And it was, I had to constantly sit there and rewrite copy, and even words like, we can't say that somebody suffers from Down syndrome. It's like somebody lives with Down syndrome. Just having that nuance and that sensitivity and that level of empathy in our social voice. So our new social person is joining next month. So for the past, she has a 3-month notice period. So for the past 3 months, it's just been me handling our social media, posting everything. And I obviously have a team that helps me with the copy and stuff, but it's been a great learning curve for me, because I realized that LinkedIn, you have to tweak your copy in a certain way because it's more for professionals. Facebook, we have more parents engaging with our content as opposed to young people, whereas on Instagram, you have more young people. So it's just finding the right voice, and also realizing that our bounce rate can sometimes be too high because people's attention spans are so short because they're just there's an information overload. So it's also realizing that like 900 to 1,000 word articles, as much as I would love to, publish featured stories, doesn't necessarily work well, at all times. So I sort of have to give more digestible content as well to my readers.
For MFMG Cosmetics, we have a large following on social media. So we have about 156,000 followers. And however, social media is only a part. I soon learned after 2 years of running the business that social media is only a part of the total sales funnel. We kind of spent a lot of time on social, hiring someone for social, kind of putting all our focus on putting out content. But we've come to realize that for us, say kind of Christine's points to leveraging your data and your analytics, our email is actually such a strong conversion tool for us still. So we use social media more for the brand awareness and focus on the entire, sales funnel. So actually building that sales funnel for us it took some time. So now we leverage tools like Hotjar, which shows kind of heat maps of where people are in the store. We'll have email pop-ups as they're coming on to the store as well. So we've really kind of figured out how when someone comes, once they click on the store, how do you recreate that experience of when you walk into somewhere and you get that, hi, how are you doing today? So I have a retail background. I actually helped Target open up their stores in 8 of their stores in the East Coast Canada when they moved. And we were always big at that time on when someone comes in, asking them, how are you doing today? And in the digital space, you lose that of being able to talk to them. So we included chatbots. So when you go to makeupformelaningirls.com, you immediately kind of get greeted by a chatbot that is being tailored to kind of, guess what you might be looking for. And then an agent might take over. And we've tried to kind of make sure at every different touch point, when you abandon, when you're looking at a specific product, we have a tailored message for you there. So just some of the ways that we've kind of tweaked our engagement in digital strategy over time.
And that's such a great point. I wanted to ask you guys too, COVID has forced us all almost completely digital, right? How do you balance that need for the non-digital part of the connection? And are you finding a demand for that more, that maybe, there was a comment earlier about there's so many newsletters right now. We're all dealing in email. We're all dealing in Zoom. Are you worried that people are going to maybe diminish the amount of digital they want when things return to a full state of health?
For us, for MFMG Cosmetics, I would say the approach we took was to be vulnerable with our customers, like as opposed to, trying to put up that farce of we got it in control despite COVID. We were just honest that, especially with the initial, for us, we've kind of been dealing with 2 crises, like COVID and now the Black Lives Matter movement against police brutality. With COVID, like we were just honest about asking customers, like, how are you doing? Have you lost your job? What kind of support do you need? And we got a ton of feedback about people saying, you know what, thank you for taking a moment away from the sales discounts to just like check up on us and ask us what we need. And it turned out that a large percentage of our, actually 28% of our email subscribers, of which we have 30,000, said they were interested in starting their own businesses. I would have never guessed that without really asking those questions. So for us right now, it's kind of being able to take the corporate mask off and just being real and authentic with our audience and hoping that they can, they can feel that authenticity from us.
That's fantastic. Christine, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree with Tomi. That's kind of the same direction that we've taken, is just to be a little bit more vulnerable with who we are, our brand and our voice, and connecting with our audience. Even through our newsletters, it's not always about selling a product. There may be a product image in the newsletter, but the content, the majority of the content is actually really relevant to what we're going through right now as a company. And we always kind of involve them in our journey, ask them how they're doing, ask them for feedback, what kind of content would they like to see. We constantly ask them for feedback. We invite all these guest bloggers onto our platform due to the fact that they've been asking for this content. So I feel like we've been trying really hard to bring together and bridge a lot of this communication into one space where they feel comfortable and where they feel like they can actually open up the email without being bombarded by all these sales discount codes. So that is kind of our method as well.
Akanksha, how about you?
So for us, because of the topics we cover, in terms of mental health, well-being, and even COVID's impact on education, it's been, like direct contact with the readers in terms of, they've told us that we actually just hosted a panel where we had the class of 2020 talk to us about struggling with resumes, not finding a job, and we, brought on a panel of experts to also help guide them, give them tips for LinkedIn, how to fill that gap in your resume. A lot of them said they had their jobs taken away. So it's sort of, listening to them, like everybody said, and also understanding what they want, what their fears are. But at the same time, again, touching upon the points of being vulnerable. We're all going through something. We've been even documenting our struggles. So my writer actually, he's been having trouble sleeping. He's at one point, I think last week, he was awake for 36 hours because he could not sleep. So he wrote an article about it, and I think it's our best performing article so far because everybody's reached out saying, oh my God, I'm not alone. Okay, this is exactly what I'm going through too. And I'm, working on another article that's basically every time I have a sore throat, I start getting so anxious. I'm like, oh my God, is it COVID or am I just, making it worse by being anxious? So it's essentially just talking about the, waiting to get COVID and just being like, okay, can I be done with, So it's just, echoing what everybody else has said, being vulnerable and just listening to what the audience wants.
This is fantastic. I want to be mindful of our schedule, so we'll wrap up with one final question. I think that these times have opened so many eyes to the potential of digital. You all were already living it. Christina has an advantage here since she switched her whole brand, but what is the one takeaway that you will have in a post-COVID world from what you've learned through this experience that you haven't already shared with us? Kanksha, you want to go first? You're right there.
Oh, okay. I would just say being empathetic towards one another, and not being so, like, I've become more flexible because I know that my team is working from home. Everybody has a million things. Right now, I'm just hoping my dog doesn't bark as I speak, So it's not like keeping up this facade of perfection and having it all together. It's allowing us to open up about our fears, to be kinder towards one another, and keep the small things don't matter so much when you're fearing your own mortality on a daily basis. So I think it's just taking being nicer to one another.
Awesome. Christine, you want to go?
For me, I think when I started the brand, I wanted to be very authentic and vulnerable to begin with. So I think it just moving forward, it just reinforces that same notion and that idea as it resonates with my brand.
Awesome. Tomi?
Yeah, it's a tough question because there's been so many learnings for us, from like supply chain to one of the goals that I wanted for MFMG Cosmetics. Although we started direct to consumer, what I perceived to be success would be getting the store at like Sephora and Ulta and those type of things. And now, like, that opportunity is really, really different at this point. So I guess the key learning is just to be willing to pivot and to also leverage resources. I think sometimes as you have as a founder, you have like a very strong vision, especially if you have a small team, it can be easy to get insular into your industry. So that's why I'm so happy that Megan has like a diversity of women on this panel with different types of businesses, even though she's in the sports space, and brought this together, because there's so much we can learn from each other across industries. And I think for a long time, I just, all of my professional associations and groups and meetings were all people in the beauty space. And I've really learned so much by, opening up about supply chain issues to somebody I met that was in the food industry or completely different, because they were able to give me an idea that wouldn't have been immediately obvious to me.
Awesome. Well, I would love to thank all of you guys so much for sharing your time and your knowledge. And Megan, any final thoughts from you for the panel?
Yeah, I think for me, like the vulnerability, the empathy, all like qualities that I think women have in spades are really coming to light, that, it's more about our clients and who we're servicing and less about our brands and our company and who we are. It's like what we build and the community we build that's important. And I feel like that gets lost when you're just chasing profit or money. So it's so nice to have both old and new friends on this call from, different industries, like you said, the shared experiences and, how to make our businesses better and stronger, even supporting one another. Everyone who's joining us on YouTube as well, I'll hopefully have a list of businesses that we can support and share and really build up our community, across the world on this call. And I think it's really important for us to continue to push forward together. So thank you all. It was like really helpful, and I'm just glad to see everyone as well. And, thank you for your time and expertise. It's really appreciated. So that gets us to our next panel, which is, as you alluded to as well, pivoting. And, there's been obviously different changes in the world, and I think it'll continue to evolve as, we get out of this pandemic and what that looks like. So our next panel has Arwina, Christina, and Netta. Sorry, I have your Netta, I have your last name as your business. That's I'm always Megan's staff lead, so I get to default sometimes of old habits. But it's nice for you all to join, and we're going to talk more on business models and how to approach COVID and beyond.
All right, well, we'll start with exactly what Megan said and building on what we ended our last panel with, but just talk us through what the biggest change that you had to conquer with the COVID pandemic in terms of your business, and how did you manage the process of implementing that change? Arwina, you want to go first?
Sure. COVID definitely did affect our business, and we did see a drop of revenue right off the bat. But I'm a very optimistic person, so the first thing I thought was, if we are seeing this drop, what can we do for our customers, and what can we do to make our product more of a need to have than a want to have, right? So those are the two things that we're actually figuring out right now. So the first one is the discounts for the customers. So right now we've offered them ways to get our product for $0 for the first 6 months, and then they would sign on for 2 or 3 years as a contract for a software license. I probably should have introduced my company first, but and then the other one is figuring out what can we do right now to build and to make our product more important and more valuable for our customers.
Do you want to share what you do so that people can put that in full context?
Sure. So we are a technology startup, and what we do is we build community platforms for gamers and for esports brands so that they can manage, grow, and monetize their communities online.
Awesome. Awesome. Neda, you want to go next?
Sure.
Oh, Neda, we're having a little trouble hearing you. Let's see, are you muted? No, you're good. Might be Neda's internet connection.
Maybe we'll go to Christina and then see.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Christina, do you want to go and we'll wait for Neda?
Yes, sure. Hello.
Hello.
And thank you for having me to your event. It's a big pleasure and honor to participate in this event. So hello from Moldova. I'll shortly introduce myself. I have a company in HVAC, in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It's our business. It's our family business. Plus, I do export of dry tools to European Union. And I'm also a board of directors member at the Association of Women Entrepreneurs in Moldova. So today I will tell you more about our HVAC business. So the reality is that this industry is experiencing a variety of both challenges and opportunities. So the COVID-19 outbreak has changed a lot for us because first of all, we revised a lot of our procedures.
If we talk about business model, I think we went online from outline. We always had a website, but we didn't work too much on it. So now it was a good time to concentrate, to change it. We also made a rebranding, a very good rebranding. We changed our name. So we worked on all our marketing tools. We also built an online store. We started to make promos more prominent with Google My Business. And moreover, many of our customers have closed their doors because of COVID and because they stay at home orders. So our installers haven't been able to work. And because of that, we have unfortunately had to lay off 12 of our technicians. We had 18 people going strong. Now we are down to 6. So what I understood, the most important during the COVID was to keep employees, to keep them on their payroll, and I understood that we should do everything to maintain our relationship with our customers.
Awesome. Neda, you're back.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
It's a little in and out. Let's see how we do.
Okay. So I hope, hello everyone, it's my pleasure to be here. So let us first about a little bit about my company and products that we have. We help people to protect themselves from sun damage while maintaining healthy levels of vitamin D. It's the combination of a hardware device and software. Besides that, we are offering a consulting as well, UX and UI design and design website and mobile application. So in terms of the product that we have, so for us, our product somehow is a seasonal product, and we expect the trend is during the summertime, our sales and revenue goes up, which didn't happen this year exactly at early March when our revenue and traction goes up, everything came down. It was on the hardware side. However, we thought this is a great opportunity to invest on the software side. So we focused our attention and resources to the software and our platform. The app that we have is Kpis, which has around 250,000 users and has been featured by Apple several times. So now we are offering other features and services like tracking moles, scanning the skins to find out how much the sun has affected on the skins, and if it's what's the chance of the skin cancer if you have the mole, to be able to track it. This is the main change that we made, and then we invested a lot in educating ourselves in the area that we have in AI and machine learning. There's always new things that come up and we should be up to date. And in some skills, our team weren't on the level that we wanted, but in the past.
Oh, I think we lost her.
We lost her again.
Maybe we'll go to Arina, I guess, again, and hopefully.
Yeah, we'll come back, hopefully. All right, we already talked about this a little bit with Christina, but Arina, what did you have to tackle and how did you manage, obviously, moving to a work from home model?
Oh, you're on mute.
I have double mute. Yeah. So anyways, so we've actually been practicing remote work from home once or twice a week. So the transition was actually pretty easy. And the fact that we actually my team lives all around the downtown Toronto, and our office is downtown Toronto. We still, right up to this day, we still feel connected. So I have to say we didn't, struggle with it. I think right now, actually, my background is our office background. We miss it. We miss being in the office, we miss seeing each other every day, and it's been I think a little over 2 months now, so we're waiting to come back. But what we've actually done for this year at least is that we are going to continue to work from home until the end of the year, with the exception of if any one of my team wants to meet me in the office space, or outside of the office, at a coffee shop, that's totally fine. But other than that, we are working from home until the end of the year.
A perfect pivot. Well done. Christina, how about you? You talked about some of your staff management things that you had to take on.
Yes, actually, I was working from home for the last half of year because my third baby came. So it wasn't something new for me. For us, it's convenient, and it was pretty easy to communicate online with our team. But what I wanted to mention that during COVID, as I told you, it was like an opportunity for our company. We started to have virtual maintenance calls with our clients. So free virtual maintenance calls. So in these calls, homeowners and landlords can call us, and if they have problem with their heating or ventilation system, our technicians can guide them through the problem. So I think it's a very good opportunity to find new customers. And even if our installers have to go and to make the reparation, the first survey visit is done online through Viber or WhatsApp. So our installers don't have to go twice. So for us, in a way, all this COVID and had opened for us gave us new ideas.
Awesome. Netta, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
No worries. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't know. I don't know how much you heard me and when it was disconnected.
Well, here you were telling us about pivoting the software focus and learning so much in that time. And then we were also talking now about managing your business in this time of COVID and working from home, those demands.
Yeah. So I just want to add something regarding the previous question is, so we, as a start entrepreneur, we thought it would be worthless if we cannot contribute to the huge effort that the community are doing to prevent the spread. So we launched a Google Chrome plugin, which is called Coronavirus Live Updates, which give information about what's happening around and how self-isolation can help people to protect themselves. So it's a mini simulator. And also on the other hand, I said that we had consulting services as well. So we thought it's a great opportunity to help other startups like us who are struggling, to help them out. So we offer free consultant services to other startups as well. So it's a very limited, just half an hour, but it was great to know other startups and learn about them as well. In terms of what how it changed our work, so I was transitioning to full time again because I was on semi-mat leave last year. So I was working from home for a while. However, our team, they were all in the office. So it took a while to find out the software which matched good with all team members, and they can work. And then what we learned is to be in touch. Don't rely on just the text and emails and Slack. To talk in person and face to face, it helped a lot to move faster and be more efficient. At the end, we are all human, and we need these types of social interactions.
Awesome. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this as well. Megan has such an amazing group of powerful women in leadership roles. Neda, we'll start with you. Where do you see us now in terms of building out diversity in the workplace? What do we need to do next? And what would you challenge other businesses as well to do to increase hearing women's voices, hearing other voices of other diverse groups?
Yeah, so as a woman entrepreneur, it was always my priority that hire and work with other women. So I, in all the job postings that we had, we mentioned that what's our aim. And if there was, if the candidates that we have, they were in the equal situations, then I would give my personal preference would be work with a first of all woman, and then after that with other people that they may have less opportunity in the community. And usually you can find those people more passionate, as the stats shows. Even although the women entrepreneurs, they get less support, but the results, it's more fruitful, and they are more dedicated to their job. So it's always was my priority, and I'm glad to say that in our team now, around 60% of our team are women.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Christina, how about you?
I'll talk about our association. During COVID, Association of Women Entrepreneurs, during COVID-19, we organized a lot of webinars on different topics, how to deal with all the problems business can have, like financial. We invited financial experts on all the problems we can have. Even now, in parallel, I have my master's degree in psychology. We invited some professors from my university, so they taught us how to deal with this anxiety we have during COVID, and how to not worry so much about business, and how to face all the problems. So we stayed united all this period, and we tried as much as possible to support each other in our association.
Awesome. Arwina, how about you?
Yep, I'll just mute myself. So I think there's three fundamentally great ways to support women during COVID, and also, after COVID, because let's face it, it's an ongoing practice that we should all do. So I think the first one is events. So whether you're attending events or whether you're managing and organizing your own women empowerment, women support type of networks, I think that's really important. And I think everyone has a story where they were facing a really challenging time in their business, and what happened was, after they attended an event or after they met a group of women entrepreneurs, they feel more empowered, and they feel like, I'm not alone in this journey. And I think that's really important. The second one is definitely your community. So in my journey, I've just been such an activist in regards to like women empowerment, and having my own groups of, accountability groups with other women as well really helps. Some of them, we meet every 2 weeks. Some of them we meet every week. I would say that 3 groups is the maximum, because then it'll just take over your life and you're just going to talk to them all the time and not actually spend time on your business. But that's really important as well. On top of attending the women type of event every once in a while. And the third one is actively empowering other women and actively empowering them even if you're not faced with them. So there's been a couple of instances where I was talking with other founders who were male, and they or other women founders, and they would talk about another founder who's also female, and maybe she's struggling in her business. And I think it's just shutting down those conversations. And I know this is kind of an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it's very important that we actively shut down those conversations and say, hey, maybe you should just ask her what she may need help with, instead of actually talking about her business. So I think those are the 3 main things. And for our company personally, we're a technology company, and it's very common for technology companies to say, hey, we struggle with getting female software engineers or data scientists. I don't have that problem. We actually don't interview candidates right off the bat. We get them to do coding assessments, and most of the time, it's the women who actually score 100% with no cheating detected. So that's my 2 cents on that.
That's fantastic. We only have a few minutes left, so we'll wrap with one final question for each of you. If you could just quickly share with our group, what is the biggest lesson you've taken from this COVID crisis, and what opportunity are you looking forward to taking on going forward? Arwina, you're with us. Why don't you start?
I think it's okay if you need to take some time for yourself. It's okay if your employees, if your staff also request that as well. On top of the changes that COVID is bringing onto the business, there's also changes in your personal life. People are working from home, and if you have employees who are parents, they have their kids at home, and some of them, like, you don't really have the daycare that you would normally need, or if it was a traditional day without COVID. So it's important to be very empathetic and understand that. That's I think that's the number one advice that I would give, and that I would practice in my everyday life, professionally and personally as well. Just be kind to yourself and be empathetic to everyone around you.
Awesome. Christina.
I have learned that first of all, you have to act fast. You have to be resilient. You have to be prepared all the time. And I think that the key to success, this is cooperation. Cooperation with your customers, with your employees, cooperation in your family. And it's very important that we women empower each other. I forgot to say, but in our association, we even organize some parties, like wine parties. Moldova is the country, a big producer of wine. So we started to sustain as much as possible our wine producers, and we have these parties with women sustaining our producers. So I'm sure that everything is going to be all right, and we will pass this crisis, and after this we'll be even stronger.
Fantastic. And Neda, I know, is dealing with one of the challenges of working from home right now. Here she comes, maybe, we'll see. But I would like to thank all of you guys for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and such diverse experience. It's really empowering and informative. And Ned, are you able to join us or?
Yeah, I
Perfect.
can come with my my 1-year-old.
Wonderful, wonderful. What have you? What's your biggest takeaway, Neda, from this COVID experience?
Yeah, first of all, to be flexible and try to work considering all the situations, and even if you have 1-year-old, to know how to focus. And the other thing was I used to work. I was in a community, but somehow I was solo, and I tried to focus on my job as much as I can. But during this pandemic, it was I found a lot of opportunity to participate in different communities and webinars online, which I wouldn't be able to do that if it was in person. And I saw a lot of other startups that they are struggling, and they are very unclear, and they say that they're vulnerable and they ask for help. This is something that I learned. I tried to cover it, hide it somehow inside, but now I know that we are all human, and we face challenges, and it's okay to ask for help from others.
Amazing. Thank you all. Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have Moldova, Lithuania, the US, Canada all online today, and it's interesting to see how these shared experiences, it doesn't matter where you live in the world, you know, women are all experiencing similar challenges, and to be able to help and have, you know, shared tips of how to not only get through this, but like Brenly said, the first is like, how do we grow through this, right? Not just go through it. And it's okay to struggle, and it's okay to be vulnerable. But, you know, we're all in this in the same circumstance. So it's quite a uniting time, I think. And I don't know if Christina or Laura have any comments they want to say, but I just want to thank everyone. And I'm always blown away by how impressive women entrepreneurs are. And I really don't think we do this enough.
It was really a nice webinar, and I like to see a lot of so strong women who do not afraid during this COVID do business and solve the problems and have a passion for their businesses they do. My business indeed is an accounting business, and I see everything from inside, you know, all the companies, what challenges they have, how they deal with it. So I saw a different situation, and really a lot of restaurants struggled a lot, and production companies, but some of them just had the best opportunities in this period and have a good revenue. So it was interesting to watch from inside, you know. So, and my business is, you know, like accountant is needed every day. So I didn't struggle from that. I had more job than ever, but hope later I will have more money also, because now some discounts should be done also for the clients. So I really thank you to Megan, to Richard, to Canada Embassy for organizing this webinar, and that you shared your experiences from Canada perspective. It was really interesting to share. And Moldova, I saw also Angela probably here, and some others from Moldova. Also nice to see you, missing you here, and I hope to see you soon live.
Yeah, we miss you all.
In Moldova.
Yeah, the invite's always open to come to Canada or the US, and we expect some wine, Christina.
Yeah.
Thank you again for everyone, and the Canadian Embassy, everyone in Lithuania and abroad. Really appreciate this, and we should do it again soon. I learned a lot. So thanks again. Thanks to Allison. And yeah, hopefully see you all again and in person one day as well. Thanks.